Welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I have headache and not the best mood after, in the name of science, of also my hotkeys. Hello, mouse cursor, Wayland. Want my hotkeys back. Previous videos rocking here some 1550X on this Asus X570 board. Was super happy, right? Liquid cooling and fastest memory, which I actually still need to edit the videos of. And only in the name of science, I should a recurring theme, right? So before we digress, I try to keep this short, 10 minutes or so max. You often see on YouTube overclocking, latest and greatest, amazing stuff. And I made the previous video, BIOS updates, nah, not amazing, and AGESA and stuff. And I said before, in 20 years, I rarely ever updated on BIOS, and only with this YouTube channel, Hyper and Creator stuff, I started to do some BIOS updates in the name of science and YouTube and stuff. And I should have known better. It was a new BIOS out, and I only wanted to mostly check if I can reach Infinity Fabric clock 2 megahertz or 2 megahertz, 2000 megahertz, 2 gigahertz. Always the hype here on YouTube and the overclockers, some manage that, some not. And so far I didn't, and yeah, that apparently burned the memory channel A. Here on this, you can't mix this stuff up. How did I verify this? So what happened? I updated this BIOS. I previously had the previous BIOS, and I should just left it, right? And this was like fixed USB. Mostly I wanted this BIOS. Actually, I thought maybe it's the last BIOS, always precious last words, right? Last BIOS I ever update on this workstation board. Yeah, so far so good. I flashed this with this easy flash, not on Linux. The BIOS posted, started to post. After the update, it came back for the settings. I chosen there 2000 megahertz Infinity Fabric clock for the test. Even memory timings relatively conservative, because I knew already that previously I couldn't Infinity Fabric 2000. So even relatively conservative memory timings, because now let's see if it boots. And yeah, it didn't. So the usual post loop of memory doesn't post, and it's like, yeah, trying again, and something. And it should come back with this, in my opinion, it was, I found already a little bit flanky of like not posting, resetting to default. That somehow wasn't the most reliable on either the X570 WSAs or the Mini ITX X470i. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I really often had to, with this overclocking stuff, resort to NVRAM reset. After the so then the issue was I couldn't. I thought I couldn't NVRAM reset. I resetted NVRAM again and again and again, like 10 times. Even took the battery out, nothing. And I thought, shit, what a bloody shit unluck now, of waste of time. It could have been such a beautiful day. It's like, yeah, 1 hour, 2 hours gone with trouble swaps, shooting of, always good to have some spare AMD CPU around. I was like, yeah, damn, what a bloody shit, what is broken now? The board, the CPU, plugged in here the AMD, the very first build video here some 2.5 years ago, so 2200, good old cheap CPU, and it posted. So yeah, I thought, hallelujah, this was just some NVRAM fluke. Plugged in the 1550X again, and no long, one long, and I think, what was it, 2 short beeps. It's like, yeah, what a shit. I tried NVRAM reset, plugged the CPU again, so this CPU worked, 1550X not. Then I even took from is it, how connected is it? Then I even took so your famous last words. Took a compute node, so yeah, always good to have some spare parts. Took a compute node out of the rack, where I had this 3950X in. So yeah, took a compute node out, took the 3950X out, and yeah, that worked. So bloody fucking crap. plugged the 5950X in this Asus 470i. It's like, yeah, no post. Then I thought already, what a bloody €1,000, okay, minus VAT, 700 something euro wasted here in the name of science. What a bloody day. I took an aspirin because in the meantime I already had major headache. And then I did some tests also. By the way, if you're new to this channel, probably don't want to miss to share, like, and subscribe. Because I did some other stuff, then I wondered how much does the CPU do for this post? Because it did like beeps, and I wondered how dead is this 5950X? Because I didn't do that much experiments the last decade, and I honestly didn't know, is this ARM CPU in this platform bring up thing? What is actually beeping there? So then I took all the memory out and it still beeped. Okay, so far so good. Then I took the CPU out and nothing. So this is also probably most of you never tried and didn't know here with the most expensive workstation in 5950X. Without a CPU, this Asus WSX570 does nothing. It doesn't power on. So there must be some kind of circuitry to detect whether a CPU is in there at all or something, or whatever. Or the standby bring up is already powered by this ARM platform enablement thing. Whatever. So this is also a good thing to know. I previously didn't know that. I never bothered to test. So then I thought, okay, fine. As this board does at least beep with a good old-fashioned PC beeper there. Maybe it's not entirely dead yet, and I tried all memory slots, and thankfully I only had my fast, because I had here a mix of this largest consumer. Of course, by the way, this, or did I not remove here? Only 11 this channel. I didn't realize here's some protection for it. Anyway, I had here a mix of this largest consumer modules previously and this new Trident Set Neo. Here nothing is a paid advertisement, and maybe to my luck, I had only half the memory in. Why did I only had half of the memory? Because this is of course significantly faster. This is the fastest consumer memory you can currently get, optimized for AMD Ryzen. And maybe this was my luck, because at least the memory channel B is still operational. So swapped one stick through all the memory slots, and yeah, B1 and B2 work. So yeah. This is, of course, I mean, it's better than completely dead, but sharing this here in that you learn something. Given that it's not completely dead, of course I lose massive performance. I just had the last 1 or 2% dialed out of there. Well, sort of, I could have dialed out a little bit more with running a little bit faster memory. I wasn't running the fastest clock due to the mix of fastest and largest for Rust and Cargo, here compiling open source. But otherwise I had the last percentage liquid cooled. I have in the meantime some Der Bauer offset plate. I pressed the last % of performance out, and now some bloody avoidable BIOS update just in the name of science. Can we reach 2000 megahertz Infinity Fabric clock that killed the memory channel A? I have no idea what exactly did I suspect, because there is this BIOS loop. Also, this is the case of we don't know what the BIOS precisely does. Everything is intellectual property and confidential and stuff, and closed source. And maybe this boot loop of auto fixing something of memory doesn't work, and like retry, maybe it increased the voltage. The voltage was 1.5 1.5 volt, which sounds high, but that is the rated overclocking voltage here for this fastest 1.5. If this would focus, maybe, can we focus? Hello. Yeah, we can do it, come on. So 1.5 volt. And maybe this BIOS auto stuff increased that automatically in trying to get that to work. DRAM, I have this here also because in the name of science, I said this previously, BIOS option saving doesn't really work. I did my usual, does it even know VR focus? So this is the last sign before it kills the memory channel A. I really wonder if I should try to RMA that. I never had much success, as much as we don't. By the way, does this show? Yeah, F clock frequency 2000, DDR4 4000, and yeah, 15, 17, 17. And I mean, this timing shouldn't kill a memory channel. This is rated 3800, 14, 16, 16, 36, 1.5 volt. Anyway, timings shouldn't kill the memory. The voltage might, but yeah, 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. There is not. Yeah. I wonder, as much as I don't have the highest appreciation for Apple anymore, at least you get some warranty there. I mean, unless you overclock, although probably Apple doesn't check if their consumers overclock. But I really wonder, so I mean, it's a little bit the fault of the Asus motherboard. This is also the problem. I sourced the board, and yeah, I sourced the board from Case King because I wanted it quickly and supporting local stores here in Berlin. And the CPU from Alternate, when they had stock last December, when this was. This is a little bit of, I mean, theoretically, Asus BIOS or Asus AMD AGESA, the BIOS maybe with some auto voltage tuning stuff burns as a memory channel. But Asus will, of course, never warranty the CPU, which they will always say a user fault and whatnot. The problem is really warranty, right? I wanted to anyway make a video regarding software warranty and stuff, but no kidding, I had this on the to-do for the next days. But this is exactly the end users in so many ways. Websites are the smallest thing, but so many products these days, everything shipped out half-baked. And if you post this to Reddit, I posted the previous video to Reddit in some shameless self-promotion style as you do on the internet. And of course got there quite some hate. Yeah, like, yeah, I don't know, bare BIOS, incompetent moron who doesn't even know what they're talking about. I mean, where do we have BIOS, something of here. The developer not impressed by AMD Ryzen stuff. No. And there's the only thing you get on Reddit, it's like, yeah, incompetent moron doesn't even know what he's talking about. And here we are. By the way, fun fact, I found for some bizarre reason, I found the next thing that I didn't even mention yet. If you have this B clock frequency on auto, I get a tiny little bit less performance, reproducible. So setting this on 100, I would think this should be 100, but auto is slightly worse, so much to additional on top of there. Anyway, yeah, warranty, this is really, I really wonder if AMD has, any one of you ever tried to RMA a CPU. The only time I had to do this was in around 1996 when I purchased the first PC ever in school and working through school holidays. And then indeed I just warranted a CPU, so I purchased a 120 megahertz Pentium P54, whatever that was. And that didn't run stable. And then there was a CT article with some serial number stuff, like Quake sometimes crashed. I think it was Quake, probably it was Quake. Got there some, always you clock down a little bit still. And then there was a CT article. Actually, I found this for the YouTube video. I wanted to look this up. I didn't find this anymore. There was something with a serial number. And there was like one letter in the serial number that was like not for multiprocessor systems or something. Or whatever this was, something of that sort. If you remember, I have the article, leave in the comments below. And basically, with that I went to the vendor, not to Intel, but where I purchased this, maybe something like, what was it, Escom or whatever, something of Vorbis or Escom or something like that, which probably both are kind of chapter 11 in the meantime. And was some talkings like, yeah, it doesn't run stable, Quake sometimes, and here's a CT article, looks, this letter here is like somehow not AAA quality and something, and I don't want the CPU that's not fully capable of there. And they really, it was some, they made a photocopy on some good old-fashioned photocopy machine 25 years ago for the chief or something, gave me one from the shelf which didn't had this indication of not being AAA CPU, and that actually fixed the issue, right? So it wasn't the board, it wasn't the memory, it really was this freaking less than stellar Intel Pentium quality, and didn't had a problem with that CPU ever since. So that really was not perfect quality thing. I just wonder here where the filter settings were. Anyway, Runix says 5000 series is higher than normal RMAs. Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is the attempt, well, in my opinion, I checked here my photos and the photos look all safe. So in my opinion, this auto fix probe loop stuff of the BIOS fixed that, burns it probably. Given that if it would be a 200 euro CPU, I would probably say, yeah, YOLO, whatever. Maybe I actually try to contact Alternate and AMD. Probably I don't even tell them like BIOS update, and this is also the thing always, what do you tell the companies in regards with an RMA warranty request? Maybe tell them as less as possible, only it's like, yeah, from one day to another, system didn't boot anymore, after troubleshooting you found memory channel A doesn't work anymore. Maybe that is the best summary of like not BIOS update, not like 2000 Infinity Fabric clock and stuff. They will always find excuses. I also wonder if they burn an E-fuse, permanent fuse for those who are new to this stuff, because if you go at least to the overclocking setting, there I have curve optimization, minus 11 or 14, 15, for a little bit higher turbo boosting, which is not the issue, right? I mean, it was running perfectly. It's also never touch a running system, was running perfectly, and then you want to gather some data points in the name of science for YouTube and stuff, and you burn your memory channels. Because if you select this, there is some dialog of warranty void or something, and I wonder if they permanently store this in the CPU. I guess not, but maybe they do, you never know. AMD AGESA overclock warranty. This would be the next thing. Here is something, let's see what that brings. Because yeah, imagine that you send it into my local vendor Alternate, which was the only one who had this in store, or AMD or whatever. First of all, I mean, thankfully I have a 1350X, lucky here as a YouTube creator and IT developer and stuff. It's not the biggest loss, it's like just some 18% less performance or 20% less performance in the next weeks. But imagine you get this back. I mean, first of all, maybe YOLO, whatever, you burned it yourself walking over carpet or whatever, or you get it back with like, yeah, warranty void because overclocking, E-fuse burn for overclocking. In either case, maybe an interesting science experiment. Old School writes, there's 3990X has been incredible. Yeah, they were incredible also. No complaints here whatsoever, except the bloody BIOS situation. I don't have hopes. But I mean, this slot still recognize. Oh, actually, I wonder if it is the same. I mean, yeah, probably it's indistinguishable between no memory in there or not. Maybe it somehow burned some buffer drivers there. Also stuff you never hear in other YouTube creator stuff. Like only overclocking is amazing. Nobody probably, yeah, E-fuses and buffer driver stuff, only terms you hear on this channel probably. What is this EE, by the way, standing for electronic fuse? Amazing. Invented by IBM, dynamic real-time programming of chips, abstract computer logic, and etched, hardwired, cannot be changed. And it's like, yeah, there we have that electric fuse. Could have got to that idea, but there we have it. Overclocking doesn't invalidate the warranty unless you fuck it up. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, this is, I mean, I have a really interesting case. Probably the CPU is just too expensive, so probably I will try to RMA that. I really wonder how this turns out. And thankfully I didn't have it that long yet. The last time I checked some weeks ago, they by the way didn't have stock, and on Amazon. Yeah, it's probably, yeah, this is really sad, right? I was one of the chosen lucky ones to even have this bloody IC, this bloody integrated circuit since December, and bloody BIOS update even burnt it. You can get it on Amazon for an obscene price of 1,200 something. Probably also, I guess, a RMA goes over alternate. You always have to RMA this stuff over your vendor, I guess. Let's see, that if we continue, I mean, we could continue to uncontrolled entertain you here, but that's probably everything you need to know. I hope you learned something from eFuses too, that your individual memory channels apparently can burn out. Leave me in the comments below what you think. Did you have any defects, overclocking or not, BIOS updates or whatever? Ronix says this is why they don't overclock anything. Yeah, I also not really, or did I? Yeah, not really until basically this YouTube craze, right? You see some other creators, probably don't need to mention names, but you know all them all, overclocking, the most overclocking. Basically, after 20 years not overclocking, you think, this integrated circuit actually are so hard to destroy. It's like, yeah, a little bit. But hey, this is not even really overclocking, right? This was technically sort of kinder in spec, well, except the Infinity Fabric clock. But I would also not think so. Basic, again, also clocking probably can't destroy this. I can only, my best guesstimate as an hardware and software engineer is that the 1.5 volt together with some automated loop of increasing some values, maybe that increased that automatically further in terms of getting this to post and training the memory channels. But yeah, really sad day. At least the loss is not total. Given that, thankfully, I mean, right now I'm streaming from that, just with significantly less memory. Does it even DRAM of, yeah, does it even mention here the slot? But yeah. That's probably mostly it, and this is also, sure, der Bauer with extreme overclocking for sure killed a handful of CPUs, but this is also certainly something a lot of other creators, certainly der Bauer mentioned it a couple of times, maybe others like Linus Sebastian or so might not necessarily, well, although actually I take this back, he mentioned to destroy some precious 5 or 10,000 server Intel CPU, dropping it and rolling over it with the office chair, as they usually do there. There's someone with the name I can't read, ask, can I use an older version? I can, well, previous video, right? Asus doesn't allow you to flash an old version for protecting the user, but this is permanently destroyed as far as I see. I swapped there. I've thankfully, due to building this YouTube channel, I have 3 CPUs. The other 2 work in this board. So, and this posted initially once until I dialed in the Infinity Fabric and other clocks I wanted to use, and only that auto tuning post loop probably overvolted there something or so. So I think unless it like regenerates overnight, which probably, I guess it's fully burnt probably. I tested this even in another board, right? This is also actually not the worst thing if you have more than one board. So the BIOS update only triggered that. Probably the BIOS logic, maybe even the previous BIOSes could have caused that if you would have dialed in similar voltages and stuff, and it wouldn't run stable, and the BIOS auto probing loop there, memory training loop, would have increased the similar. So it's probably not something of the latest and greatest BIOS. It's just something that accidentally, randomly, bad luck happened to me here. And yeah, probably it was certainly very bad luck with the stars and moon aligning in the right constellation. Another day, it might not have happened depending on temperature. Also, it's right now freaking cooling. I left the window open, so actually kind of freezing here. So much to freezing in your office when you leave the window open, a cold spring day. So yeah, temperature was actually low, but I mean, it's like sometimes you have luck and sometimes you don't. And yeah. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something. So better don't overclock. I previously mentioned already, anyway, mostly waste of time due to very little, like 1 to 3% performance gain for hours of work and potentially damaging something. But let this be a warning for you and me. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave in the comments below tips and tricks and your experiences, stuff you damaged, stuff you overclocked, stuff that you RM8, and see you next time.